Ethan had always considered himself a careful man, an engineer by profession. He had spent most of his life fixing machines, repairing spacecraft systems, and quietly solving problems that most people didn't even notice existed. Yet, as he floated through the sleek corridors of the alien space station orbiting the planet Zetheria, he realized that carefulness could only carry him so far. The station was enormous, far bigger than any human ship he had worked on, and its hallways twisted in ways that made his sense of direction useless. He adjusted the straps of his toolkit and muttered to himself, "Just finish the inspection, fix the generator, and go home. Easy." Ethan had been assigned to this station for a week, and he had already learned a few important things about Zetherian technology. It was brilliant, delicate, and completely different from anything humans had ever built. One wrong move could short-circuit an entire system. That thought made him tense, and he walked faster, eager to reach the generator chamber at the far end of the station. As he turned a corner, a strange sound caught his attention, a soft, rhythmic hum, almost musical. Ethan paused. The walls of the corridor shimmered slightly, as if made of liquid metal, reflecting light in shifting patterns. He had read about this material in the reports. It was designed to adapt to mood and presence, but seeing it in action made him feel uneasy. He shook his head and continued walking, muttering, "Focus, Ethan. Generator first, humming walls second." Yet, just as he reached a door labeled Privé Sector, a sudden vibration shook the corridor. His toolkit clattered against his hip. He stumbled, pressing the door open with a little too much force. The door slid aside silently, revealing a large chamber bathed in soft violet light. And then he froze. Standing at the center of the room was her, the alien queen. She was unlike anything he had ever imagined. Tall, elegant, with skin that shimmered like the surface of a calm lake under starlight. Her eyes were enormous and bright, with colors that shifted between gold and emerald. Long, flowing tendrils of hair seemed almost alive, floating gently around her head, reacting to some invisible current. She wore a robe of deep blue that sparkled like distant galaxies. Every movement she made was graceful, deliberate, and commanding. Ethan's jaw went slack. I'm sorry," he stammered, stepping back instinctively. "I didn't mean to." The queen raised one hand, and the room seemed to still. "You may stay," she said, her voice soft yet resonant, carrying a musical quality that made Ethan's ears ring slightly. "You are different." "Different?" Ethan repeated, unsure if he had heard her correctly. "I mean, yes, I guess, but I'm just an engineer. I'm here to repair the generator. Not different." The queen tilted her head slightly, examining him with those strange, ever-shifting eyes. Ethan felt as if she could see every thought in his mind. He shifted nervously, from foot to foot. "Your presence is unusual," she said. "You are not like the others who come here. You are unpredictable." Ethan swallowed hard. "Unpredictable? I'm not sure if that's good or bad." The queen's lips curved into a faint smile, almost imperceptible. "It is necessary." 1. Ethan's brain was racing. He had read every report about the queen, how she was wise, powerful, and sometimes feared even by her own people. And yet here she was, looking at him like she had been waiting for him all along. In his nervousness, Ethan did what he usually did when he panicked. He tried to explain, I mean, I'm just here to do my job. I didn't come to, He waved his hands helplessly. "I didn't come to disturb you. I'm very sorry if I..." But the words came out wrong. Somehow, His awkward human phrasing, combined with the alien language embedded in the Queen's chamber, sounded to her like a proposal. Ethan realized too late. His face burned. "Oh no," he whispered to himself. "Oh no. Oh no. Oh no." The Queen froze, her eyes locking onto his. Then, softly, almost a whisper, she said, "Finally." Ethan's mind blanked. "Finally." "What?" he asked, his voice barely audible. The Queen did not answer immediately. She simply walked a few steps toward him, her movements as fluid as water. Ethan took a cautious step back, but she raised her hand, not in threat, but in reassurance. "You are the one," she said. "The one I have awaited for countless cycles." Ethan's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. He wanted to say something intelligent, but only words like cycles and awaited came out. I think there's been a mistake. I wasn't." The Queen laughed softly, a sound that made the air shimmer with warmth. "No mistake, human. Your words, though accidental, reveal your heart. And your heart has reached me at last." Ethan blinked rapidly, trying to comprehend. "My heart reached you?" he whispered. I don't even know you." "And yet," the Queen said, her voice gentle, "you are here. You are present. You have acted without fear. That is why you are different." Ethan swallowed hard. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, a man who fixed machines, calculated problems, and stayed out of danger. Yet here he was, standing before the most powerful being on the planet, who seemed to consider him extraordinary. I don't understand," he said honestly. "I'm just a human engineer. I just walked into your room by accident. I didn't mean to." The Queen's eyes softened, and she stepped closer. "Sometimes, the universe works in ways beyond intention, human. You speak without knowing the meaning, yet your actions carry truth. You have proposed, though not intentionally, and yet, I see what you did not." Ethan's knees felt weak. "I'm worthy?" "Yes," she said, tilting her head. "Worthy of trust, worthy of companionship, worthy of destiny." Ethan's mind was spinning. He had heard about humans being brave, adaptable, and unpredictable. He had never imagined that these qualities could be so important to an alien queen who had waited centuries for someone like him. And yet, staring into her eyes, he felt an inexplicable connection, a bond that transcended words, species, or reason. Before he could say anything, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and the floor vibrated slightly. Ethan jumped. Is this, normal?" The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. But she did not panic. "No. There is an incoming threat. You will help me protect this station." Ethan's eyes widened. "Protect the station?" "Yes," she said calmly. "If you wish to remain here, you must act." Ethan swallowed. He had never been in combat before. His experience was repairing circuits, calibrating engines, not defending a planet against unknown threats. And yet, he realized that leaving now was not an option. Somehow, some way, he had been thrown into a situation far larger than himself. Yes, I'll help," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I don't know what I can do, but I'll try." The Queen nodded approvingly. "That is enough. Courage is not the absence of fear, human, but action despite fear. You already possess it." Ethan's stomach tightened, but a strange feeling filled him, a mixture of fear, excitement, and something he could not name. He glanced at the Queen, and for a moment, He thought he saw the tiniest hint of relief in her eyes. Relief that someone ordinary, fragile, and yet brave enough, had finally crossed her path. As he followed her to the command center, the hum of alien machinery filling the air, Ethan tried to calm himself. He was about to face a danger he could barely understand. He was on a planet far from home. And somehow, he had just accidentally proposed to the most powerful alien in the galaxy. Somehow, he thought, he was already in way over his head. And yet, he could not help but feel a flicker of anticipation. Perhaps this accidental meeting, this blunder of words, was not a mistake. Perhaps it was the beginning of something far larger than him, a story that would change not only his life, but the fate of a distant world. The Queen glanced at him, her eyes still holding that unreadable depth. "Ethan," she said, "you have taken the first step. Now, follow me. The galaxy waits." And with that, Ethan realized that nothing in his quiet, predictable life could have prepared him for the adventure ahead. He took a deep breath, tightened his toolkit straps, and stepped forward. Destiny, it seemed, had arrived accidentally, unexpectedly, and entirely in his favor. Ethan followed the Queen down a long corridor, the walls shimmering with their usual strange light. His heart still raced from the encounter in her private chamber. Every step felt surreal. He was walking beside the most powerful being on the planet, the one who had whispered, "Finally," when he accidentally proposed. Even saying it out loud in his own mind made him blush. The Queen, whose name was Serafina, moved with calm assurance. Every step, every gesture seemed measured, yet effortless. Ethan struggled to keep up, clutching his toolkit tightly. He kept expecting someone, anyone, to burst in and tell him this was some test he was failing. But the corridors remained silent, save for the soft hum of the station's systems. "You appear nervous," Serafina said, her voice smooth and melodic. I guess I am," Ethan admitted. "I mean, you're the Queen, and I accidentally said something I didn't mean." Serafina glanced at him briefly, and Ethan thought he saw a faint smile on her lips. "Your words were not without meaning," she said. "Sometimes intention is less important than action. You acted as your heart would, without fear or hesitation. That is rare." Ethan blinked. "Yes," she replied simply, as if stating the obvious. He wanted to ask more, but a loud alarm interrupted his thoughts. The station shuddered, and red lights flashed along the walls. "The rogue fleet," Serafina said calmly. "They have arrived sooner than expected. We must prepare." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Fleet? I don't even know how to fight." "You will learn," Serafina said. "You are human. That makes you adaptable, resourceful, unpredictable. These qualities will serve you well." Ethan wasn't sure whether to be relieved or terrified. He had never considered himself a hero. He had never even been in a serious emergency that didn't involve a broken machine. And yet, here he was, about to face a threat that could destroy a planet, alongside the most powerful alien in the galaxy. The Queen led him to the station's command center, a massive room filled with glowing consoles, holographic maps, and alien crew members moving quickly to their stations. Ethan's eyes widened. It was like nothing he had ever seen. Humans had nothing like this. Everything was more advanced, more precise, and alive, in a way he couldn't explain. "Observe," Serafina instructed, pointing to a large holographic display. "The fleet approaches from this sector. They are numerous, fast, and armed with plasma disruptors. Our defenses are strong, but without strategy and adaptation, we cannot hold them off." Ethan studied the display, trying to make sense of the alien symbols and calculations. He had been trained in engineering, yes, But interstellar warfare was another matter entirely. He swallowed hard. I think I can help, he said slowly. Maybe I can. Reroute energy to the shields. Or modify the defense cannons to work faster. Serafina's eyes lit up. Exactly. Your mind sees possibilities others miss. That is why you are here. That is why you are here. Also, that's not possibilities. Ethan felt a mixture of pride and fear. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a fighter. He was just him. And yet, the Queen believed he could make a difference. As he worked, Serafina observed quietly, occasionally giving him a subtle instruction. Redirect the power flow here. Good. Now stabilize the grid. Excellent. Hours passed in a blur of activity. Ethan's hands moved quickly over alien interfaces, rerouting energy, stabilizing the station's systems, and even improvising small solutions when the alien technology didn't respond as expected. Each success gave him confidence, though his exhaustion grew. Finally, a pause. The alarms quieted, and the immediate threat of the rogue fleet had been temporarily stalled. Ethan slumped in a chair, sweat running down his face. You performed admirably, Serafina said softly. You have the courage and mind of someone. Ethan shook his head. I don't feel extraordinary. I just did what I could. Yet you are, she said, her gaze piercing. Extraordinary is not about what one feels. It is about what one does when faced with the impossible. Ethan couldn't help but look at her. Truly look at her. For the first time, he saw vulnerability in her expression, not fear, but a deep, quiet longing. He realized she had waited, and he had arrived, by accident or fate, at the exact moment she needed someone like him. Why me? He asked quietly. Serafina considered him for a moment. We have many capable individuals, but none have the qualities necessary to act without expectation, without fear of failure, without hesitation. You do. That is why. Ethan's mind raced. He had always thought humans were insignificant in the vast universe, small and fragile. But here he was, standing beside a being whose decisions affected billions, and she considered him capable of changing the course of history. Before he could ask more, the communication panel beeped urgently. A holographic figure appeared, a commander from the station. Queen Serafina, the figure said. Scouts report movement at the outer perimeter. They are preparing a secondary strike. Serafina nodded. Very well. Ethan, your task remains crucial. Your improvisation and quick thinking will be needed again. Ethan groaned inwardly but nodded. Okay. Let's do it. As he worked, Serafina stepped closer, her presence calm and commanding. Ethan could feel her eyes on him, watching every action. He couldn't explain it, but her gaze gave him strength, even as fear clawed at his stomach. You have adapted quickly, she said softly. Faster than I expected. Ethan laughed nervously. Well, I guess panic makes you invent things fast. The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile. Perhaps, but you are not panicking. You are focused. That is what makes you remarkable. As the hours passed, Ethan and Serafina worked together seamlessly, a strange and unexpected partnership forming. The humans on the station began to notice it too. The Queen, usually distant and unapproachable, allowed Ethan near her, and his presence seemed to calm her. Later, when the immediate danger had passed, Serafina invited Ethan to her private chamber again, not as a guest intruding, but as someone accepted. You have performed well, she said, seating herself gracefully. Ethan nodded, still trying to catch his breath. I think I understand some of your technology now. But there's still a lot I don't know. Knowledge comes with time, she replied. Patience is part of the test. But I wish to tell you something. Personal. Ethan's heart skipped. Personal? Yes, Serafina said, her voice softening. You are human. I have waited centuries for someone who can stand beside me. Not just in intellect and courage, but in heart. Someone unpredictable, yet reliable. Someone who sees possibilities where others see limits. You are that person. Ethan blinked. Me? You mean I'm like destined? Or something? Destiny is not always planned, human, she said. Sometimes it is recognized. And you have been recognized. He tried to wrap his mind around her words. It sounded impossible. He was just a human engineer. Yet here he was, standing beside a being who had ruled her people for centuries. Someone who considered him extraordinary simply because of who he was. And then he remembered the accidental proposal. His face flushed. Before, when I didn't mean. Serafina's eyes softened. I know. That was not important. What mattered was your honesty, your courage, and your willingness to act without knowing the consequences. That is why I whispered. Finally. Ethan's jaw dropped. Finally. What? Finally, she said simply. Someone has come who can understand me, who can act beside me, and who may, one day, stand as my equal. That is what I have awaited. Ethan felt a strange warmth spread through him. He didn't fully understand, but he realized something important. He had entered a world far larger than himself, and somehow, he belonged here. Not by power, not by strength, but by courage, ingenuity, and heart. He nodded slowly. I'll do my best, he said. I don't know what's coming, but I'll stand by you. 200. I mean live sum. I'll stand by you. Serafina's eyes gleamed with approval. That is all I ask. As Ethan left the chamber that night, he looked out at the stars from the station's observation deck. The rogue fleet was still out there, waiting, but he felt ready. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be part of something larger than himself. To be recognized, not just for skill, but for who he truly was. And though he had not intended it, he now realized that whisper of hers, finally, was not a mistake. It was a promise. A promise that his life, and the life of the alien world he had stumbled into, would never be the same again. Ethan smiled faintly. Somehow, he thought, this accidental meeting might just change everything. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. Ethan felt his stomach drop as alarms blared and red lights flashed across the corridors. The rogue fleet had arrived, and this time they were closer than anyone had expected. Ethan, Queen Serafina called, her voice steady yet commanding. We must act now. Ethan swallowed hard. He had been preparing for this moment, but nothing could have truly prepared him for the reality of battle. Ships streaked across the sky outside the station's windows, firing streams of glowing energy that slammed into the station's shields. Sparks danced along the edges of the hull, and the floor vibrated with the force of impact. I don't know if I can, Ethan began, but Serafina's sharp gaze cut through his panic. You can, she said firmly. Trust yourself. Trust what you know. Ethan took a deep breath. He adjusted the power flow to the defense turrets, his hands moving quickly over the alien controls. He redirected energy to the shields, while simultaneously stabilizing the station's power grid. Sweat ran down his face, but he focused, remembering her words. Courage was not the absence of fear, but action, despite it. Good, Serafina said beside him, her eyes scanning the tactical display. Now modify the cannon targeting algorithms. Human creativity will save us here. Ethan worked as fast as he could, his mind racing. He adjusted the targeting paths, predicting the rogue ship's movements with a mixture of instinct and calculation. The alien technology was foreign, but he began to see patterns, and with Serafina's subtle guidance, he managed to make the defense systems far more effective than they had been before. Outside, the enemy ships faltered. Several were disabled by precise energy blasts, and others retreated momentarily. Ethan allowed himself a small, brief sense of satisfaction. He was making a difference. But the battle was far from over. "Ethan," Serafina said urgently, "they are launching boarding pods. If they breach the station, all will be lost. You must go with me." Ethan's eyes widened. "Boarding pods? I'm not trained for that." "You are capable," she said firmly. "You have adapted quickly. Human. You are stronger than you know." He had no choice. Together, they moved to the station's outer hangar, where the pods were already approaching. Serafina activated her personal energy shield, and Ethan followed suit, using a protective field he had learned to operate under her guidance. The first pod crashed against the hangar doors, and alien soldiers poured out, their weapons glowing with dangerous energy. Ethan's heart pounded. He had never held a weapon like this before. Yet instinctively, he mirrored Serafina's movements. He deflected attacks, created barriers, and redirected energy, keeping the enemy at bay. The Queen moved beside him with fluid precision, her energy shield cutting through attackers effortlessly. Yet she glanced at Ethan occasionally, silently assessing his actions. Each time, he found himself performing better, learning faster. Fear still gripped him, but determination pushed him forward. "Ethan," Serafina said during a brief pause, "do not hesitate. Your instincts are correct. Trust them." Ethan nodded, focusing on the rhythm of the battle. He could see the openings now, the patterns of the enemy's movement. With careful timing, he fired a series of precise energy blasts that disabled several pods. Alien soldiers hesitated, confused by the humans' unpredictability. The tide began to turn. But then, one pod broke through the outer defenses and headed straight for a group of civilians trapped near the hangar exit. Ethan's chest tightened. He couldn't let anyone be harmed, not while he had a chance to help. Without thinking, he dashed forward, shielding the civilians with his own body while deflecting the incoming fire. The Queen moved instantly to assist him, combining her energy with his to create a protective barrier that absorbed the blasts. For a moment, time seemed to slow. Ethan's mind raced with calculations, how to stabilize the barrier, how to push the civilians to safety, how to redirect power to hold off the attackers. Sweat poured down his face, and his muscles ached, but he refused to falter. When the last civilian reached safety, Ethan collapsed onto one knee, breathing heavily. Serafina stepped close, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You acted without hesitation," she said softly. "That is courage. That is why you are extraordinary." Ethan shook his head, still panting. "I was just scared, but I didn't want them to." "Fear does not define you," she interrupted gently. "Action does. You are human, yes, but in this moment, you have shown the strength of more than one lifetime. You are worthy of trust and respect." For a brief moment, Ethan felt something swell in his chest, a mix of pride, relief, and something he could not name. He glanced at Serafina, who was watching him intently. There was no pride in her gaze, no judgment, only acknowledgement. And in that acknowledgement, Ethan understood why she had whispered "finally" when he accidentally proposed. She had been waiting for someone like him, not a soldier, not a strategist, but someone capable of courage, kindness, and ingenuity in equal measure. Someone human, yet capable of extraordinary action. The battle continued for hours. Ethan and Serafina moved through the station with seamless coordination. They disabled rogue ships, protected civilians, and stabilized the station's systems. Each challenge tested Ethan's mind and body. Yet he adapted, learned, and grew more confident with every action. By the time the last of the rogue fleet retreated, Ethan was exhausted. His uniform was scorched, his hands were raw, and his hair stuck to his forehead with sweat. But he had survived, and more importantly, he had made a difference. Serafina surveyed the aftermath from the command center. "You have exceeded all expectations," she said quietly, her tone almost reverent. "Not only in skill, but in heart. You acted for others, without thought for yourself. That is what defines a true partner." Ethan shook his head, still trying to catch his breath. I just did what I could. I wasn't sure if it would work. And yet it did," she said, her eyes softening. "Because you believed in action, not fear. That is why you are here, human. That is why destiny brought you to me." He looked at her, trying to process everything. The queen he had once thought untouchable, mysterious, and distant was not only watching him, but valuing him. The thought was overwhelming and yet comforting. Later, after the battle, the queen invited Ethan to her private chamber again. He followed, still trembling from adrenaline, but determined to understand what was happening between them. "You have faced your trial," Serafina said, her voice calm and melodic. Ethan swallowed. "Passed? I don't feel like I passed anything. I just did what I had to do." "And that is exactly why you did," she said. "You did not seek recognition. You did not seek reward. You acted from your heart, and that is more valuable than skill alone. You have shown me what I have been waiting for, a human capable of courage, compassion, and ingenuity." Ethan's mind spun. He had never thought of himself as extraordinary. He had never imagined that a queen of an alien world could see such potential in a simple human engineer. And yet, here he was, standing beside her, feeling the weight of destiny and responsibility settled gently on his shoulders. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Why not someone from your own people?" Serafina regarded him with quiet intensity. "Many are strong. Many are skilled. But none have the combination of heart, courage, and adaptability that you possess. You are unique. That is why destiny brought you to me." Ethan felt a strange warmth spread through him. The fear and uncertainty that had filled his mind earlier were replaced with a sense of purpose. He understood now that he had not been chosen by chance. He had been chosen because he was capable of facing impossible odds, capable of compassion, capable of standing beside someone far greater than himself and making a difference. He took a deep breath. I'll do my best," he said. "For you, for the station, for everyone." Serafina's eyes softened. "That is all I ask." As he left her chamber that night, Ethan looked out at the stars once more. The rogue fleet had retreated, but the memory of the battle lingered in his mind, the fear, the adrenaline, and the realization that he had truly faced something extraordinary. He smiled faintly. Somehow, he thought, this was only the beginning. The Queen's trust, her recognition, and the bond they were forming were far more important than he had ever imagined. And though he had not intended it, he now understood why she had whispered, "Finally." It was not about words or proposals. It was about finding someone who could rise to the challenges of destiny, and he, a simple human engineer, had done exactly that. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt ready not just to survive, but to embrace whatever adventures lay ahead, side by side with the alien queen who had awaited him for centuries. The station had survived the attack, but the air still thrummed with tension. Outside, Zetheria's orbit shimmered with quiet starlight, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Ethan walked beside Queen Serafina through the station's corridors, his mind still replaying the events of the battle. He had faced fear, chaos, and life-threatening danger, but somehow, he had survived. And more importantly, he had made a difference. "You did well," Serafina said quietly, her voice soft yet commanding. "You have proven yourself not only capable, but trustworthy. That is rare among those who come to my planet." Ethan shrugged awkwardly. I just tried to help. I didn't know if I could do anything. But I guess I got lucky." Serafina's eyes sparkled. "Luck is only a part of it. Courage, quick thinking, and compassion made the difference. You acted with your heart as well as your mind." Ethan swallowed. He had never considered that simple human qualities could matter so much in the vastness of space. And yet, here he was, standing beside the most powerful being in the galaxy, and she valued him not for weapons, power, or authority, but for who he truly was. The Queen led him to a private chamber overlooking Zytheria's surface. The planet's oceans glimmered like molten silver under the distant sun, and vast forests stretched endlessly across the land. Ethan had never seen anything so beautiful. "This is incredible," he whispered. Serafina smiled faintly. "It is my home, and soon, it may be yours as well." Ethan blinked. "Mine? I don't understand." "You have been accepted," she said simply. "Not only by me, but by my people. You have acted as a leader, a protector, and a partner. That is why you are here." Ethan felt a surge of warmth. He had come to Zytheria as an ordinary human engineer, expecting only to repair a station. Now, he realized that destiny had placed him in a role far greater than he could have imagined. "You mean, you actually want me here?" he asked hesitantly. "Yes," she said softly. "Your presence brings hope not only to my people, but to me. You have shown me courage, wisdom, and compassion. These qualities are rare, and they are what I have awaited for centuries." Ethan felt his face grow warm. He remembered the accidental proposal, the whispered word, "finally," and all the tension of the battle. He had never intended to step into this role, yet now he understood. It had always been meant to happen. "Ethan," Serafina continued, "the future of Zytheria and the galaxy will depend on alliances between our people and humans. You are proof that we can work together, that humans have qualities beyond technology and strength qualities that are invaluable." Ethan nodded slowly. I'll do my best. I promise." Serafina reached out and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. The warmth of her touch was calming, yet full of unspoken power. "I do not doubt it. You have already done more than most could imagine. You are part of something greater now, and that cannot be undone." For the first time, Ethan felt a sense of belonging he had never known. He had spent his life feeling ordinary, small, and insignificant. But here, on this alien station, beside this extraordinary being, he realized that even someone human, fragile and simple, could be extraordinary in the right moment. Over the next few days, Ethan began to learn more about the Queen, her people, and their technology. He worked closely with engineers and strategists, helping to repair and improve the station's defenses. His human perspective brought fresh solutions to old problems, and the alien engineers began to look at him with respect rather than skepticism. Yet it was not just his skills that mattered. Serafina watched him closely, seeing how he treated others with patience, kindness, and fairness. He spoke to the youngest trainees, offering guidance without condescension. He comforted frightened civilians, never hesitating to place their safety above his own. And in every action, he demonstrated the qualities that had made her whisper, "Finally." One evening, after a long day of work, Serafina invited Ethan to join her on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and the gentle hum of the station was the only sound. "You have changed much in a short time," she said softly. Not just in skill, but in presence. Your people have potential beyond what we imagined, and you show it best. Ethan looked at her, his heart pounding. I never thought I'd matter so much. I'm just me. Serafina turned to him, her gaze steady and full of warmth. You are more than you know. And now, you stand not only beside me as an ally, but as a partner. Someone who can share the weight of leadership, the challenges of destiny, and the hope for the future. Ethan swallowed. The word partner resonated deeply. It was more than respect, more than recognition. It was acceptance, trust, and connection. I don't know what to say, he admitted. You need not say anything, Serafina replied. Your actions have spoken louder than words. You have proven yourself. And now, you may accept what you have been given, if you choose. Ethan looked out at the stars, taking a deep breath. He had a choice: to remain the ordinary engineer he had always been, or to step fully into this extraordinary life, beside the Queen. And in that moment, he realized that he had already made the choice without even knowing it. I choose, he said finally, turning to her. I choose to stand with you, to help, to learn, and to be here. Serafina's eyes softened, and she reached out, taking his hand gently. Then it is done. Not by accident, not by mistake, but by destiny. You are here because you belong. For the first time, Ethan felt a calm certainty settle over him. He had faced danger, uncertainty, and the unknown, and had emerged stronger. He had proven himself not only in skill, but in courage and heart. And now, he was recognized, accepted, and trusted by someone who had waited centuries for a companion like him. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding and preparation. The rogue fleet was gone, but the galaxy was vast, and threats would come again. Yet Ethan faced each challenge with growing confidence, guided by Serafina and supported by her people. Together, they improved defenses, trained civilians, and forged plans for interstellar alliances. Through it all, the bond between Ethan and Serafina grew. It was not instant, not dramatic, but steady, built on trust, mutual respect, and understanding. She shared stories of her people, their history, and their hopes. He shared tales of humanity, of their creativity, resilience, and unpredictability. Each story strengthened their connection, and Ethan realized that he was no longer just a visitor on Scytheria. He was part of something larger, something meaningful. One evening, as they watched the sun set over the planet's oceans, Serafina spoke softly. Ethan, you have done more than survive. You have thrived. You have inspired others. And in doing so, you have changed not only this station, but me. Ethan felt a warmth spread through his chest. I never imagined I could make a difference here. But with you, I feel like I can do anything. You can, she said simply. And together, we will face whatever comes next. The galaxy is vast, and we are not alone. But now, we are stronger, because we are together. Ethan smiled, finally understanding the true meaning of her whisper. Finally. It was not just about a proposal, or an accident. It was about connection, courage, and destiny. It was about finding someone who could rise to the challenges of life, who could stand beside her as equal, and who could help shape the future of an entire world. And in that moment, as the stars stretched endlessly above them and the planet below glimmered with life, Ethan knew that he had found his place not just on Scytheria, but in the story of something far greater than himself. He was no longer just a human engineer. He was a partner to the Queen, a protector of her people, and a symbol of what humanity could achieve when courage, ingenuity, and heart were combined. The future stretched before them, vast and uncertain, but Ethan felt ready. Together, he and Serafina would face it, side by side, as allies, companions, and partners in a galaxy full of endless possibilities. And so, the accidental proposal that had begun in confusion and fear became the first step toward a new beginning, a beginning filled with adventure, trust, and the promise of a shared destiny. Ethan looked at Serafina and smiled. I never imagined life could be like this. But I wouldn't change a thing. Serafina's eyes glimmered with warmth. Nor would I. Finally, we have found each other. Finally, the future begins. And with that, the two of them turned to face the stars, ready to meet whatever destiny awaited.